Everything you need to know about tonight's life-changing new moon. Tonight is not an ordinary lunar moment. It arrives like a knock at the door of your life, and what stands outside is not noise but a clear demand. Choose. For some of you, this will feel like a soft, clearing breeze that lifts something you've carried for years. For others, it will feel like a pressure building until a choice becomes unavoidable. Either way, the invitation is the same. Decide, reclaim, receive. Here's the essential frame you need before anything else. This new moon functions like an energetic audit. It's a night when what's unfinished, misassigned, or quietly swallowed gets highlighted. Think of it as a ledger being opened. Lines that have been written in someone else's handwriting begin to fade. Old entries that don't belong to you show up as errors. At the same time, a second kind of accounting happens. An internal tally of small betrayals you made to survive. The compromises, silences, and almosts that have been quietly draining you. This moon separates those two ledgers and asks you to do something different with each. If you stay with me to the end of this message, I'll guide you through a simple activation for tonight. 3 clear, safe steps you can take before sleep to lean into this clearing. If this is landing, save this video or share it with someone who needs to hear it. The activation is short and designed to be done tonight. What is this new moon actually doing? Picture an office where a meticulous auditor opens a stack of old files. Some files belong to other people. Family scripts, inherited expectations, cultural shoulds. Those are the external misassigned obligations. They have names like, you must always make others comfortable, you carry shame that isn't yours, or you pay in silence so the family ledger stays balanced. Under this moon, those files are being flagged. The universe is not punishing you, it's simply shining a light on what never was yours to carry. At the same time, there is another stack, your internal ledger. These are the entries you made to survive, small compromises of truth that over time became habits. Maybe you stop speaking when your voice matters. Maybe you accept less pay than you're worth. Maybe you promise safety to others at the expense of your own growth. That is internal debt, energy spent in self-betrayal. The new moon makes the difference visible. You might feel it as a release, an inexplicable lightness, or as a rising urgency, like a bell ringing to remind you that a decision is due. How do you tell the two apart? External misassigned obligations tend to feel like weights that lift when acknowledged. You may suddenly notice distance where there used to be heaviness, a relief that didn't require you to confront or fix it. Internal debt feels different. It shows up as a persistent tug in the chest, a gnawing sense that something in you has been compromised. You feel pressure to act, to reclaim your voice, to stop settling, to honor commitments you made to yourself and then ignored. One opens, the other calls you to step forward. Let me illustrate. Maya carried her mother's idea of success, a script that said visible achievements equal worth. She spent a decade in a job that showed well on paper, but eroded her mornings. One night, under a past new moon, she woke with a startling lightness. The compulsion to keep proving herself had loosened. That was external misassignment unhooking. The familial standard that she'd treated as her own simply fell away when it no longer fit. Jonah's experience was different. He had repeatedly agreed to projects because he feared disappointing people. Over time, each yes became a small betrayal of his time and attention. Under the same lunar rhythm, he felt pressure, not relief, to say no, to set boundaries, to honor his calendar. That pressure was internal debt asking to be settled. Both experiences are valid. The moon clears what it can and nudges you to finish what only you can finish. There is another layer to understand, the numeric weight of tonight. For many people, the date around the 18th carries the energy of a pivot, a final inhale before action. Don't take this as a rigid prophecy. Think of it as a poetic intensifier. The 18th in this frame works like a deadline written in gentle ink. You are being asked to move from almost toward real commitment. If you have been habitually living in almost leaving, almost starting, almost asking, it's a prime night to confront that pattern. The pressure is not punitive. It's a spotlight giving you a clean view of the threshold. That spotlight reveals shadow contracts, the agreements you made in old seasons out of fear or survival that now limit you. Shadow contracts have the language of protection. I'll keep quiet so we don't fight. I'll carry this burden so they don't have to. I'll make myself small so I won't be targeted. At the time, they were clever strategies. Later, they calcify into identity. These contracts were written under duress and can expire the moment you refuse to sign them again. How do shadow contracts dissolve? They loosen when you act with small, consistent integrity. You do not need a dramatic renunciation. Start small. Say the one no that matters. Leave the one half step that drains you. Or tell one truth that has been muffled. Shadow contracts are often reinforced by subtle cues, people who need you to remain the same, systems that reward your compliance, or your own story that insists it's safer to stay. The new moon acts like a fax of truth from the future. It shows you which contracts are outdated and invites you to let those clauses lapse. Here are 2 short prompts to identify a shadow contract tonight. First, ask where in your life the phrase, "I shouldn't," appears most. Not because it's morally wrong, but where "I shouldn't" keeps you small. Second, notice the relationships where you habitually apologize more than you assert. These are the pages where old agreements live. Now let's talk about receiving. Many people mistake receiving for selfishness. The wound behind that belief often comes from a family or cultural ledger that equated taking with taking away. Tonight challenges that assumption. Receiving is not greed when it follows alignment. Receiving is the restoration of energy when you've been an energetic philanthropist without consent. Imagine your energy as water. If it constantly leaks through unseen cracks, overgiving, over-apologizing, there is less enoughness to nourish your own roots. Reclaiming that water is not theft, it's reclamation. What does receiving look like in practice after this moon? It can be subtle, someone offering a sincere compliment, and it lands as deserved, not suspicious. A small job opportunity that aligns with who you are shows up, and you accept without guilt. Money arrives in a modest, practical way, a refund, a freelance client, a tip, and your first response is gratitude, not immediate worry about repayment or worthiness. The universe is not handing out lottery checks. It's creating moment-to-moment openings for momentum, particularly for acts of quiet integrity you've already performed. Think of it as compensation for your slow, honest investments. You have been doing good quietly, helping, showing up, being reliable. And that unseen goodness begins, under this moon, to convert into visible openings. Let me tell you about Lucia. For years, she had volunteered on weekends, helping in community programs, never expecting recognition. She was the kind of person who did the right thing and then erased it from her own story. After a cycle of small, faithful acts, something shifted. A neighbor recommended Lucia for a paid role related to the community program, and she was offered a fair contract. It wasn't a windfall. It was a direct conversion of her steady integrity into a tangible reward. Under tonight's moon, the pattern that rewarded invisible good behaviors can begin to show practical returns. Doors that used to stay closed will open a little wider. You may wonder, what signs should you watch for in the coming days? Pay attention to small, synchronistic invitations, messages that appear at exactly the right time, people showing up who previously felt absent, a problem resolving itself with less friction than usual. Energy returns may feel like a loosening, clearer sleep, appetite for creation, more vivid dreams, or a renewed sense of boundaries. None of these are guaranteed. They are possible effects of shifting energetic alignment. The safe posture is curious observation. not attachment to outcomes, and steady action toward integrity. This is the moment to choose decisive clarity over the comfortable fog of almost. The fog has its seductions. It keeps you from confronting real change while offering the illusion of progress. Choosing alignment does not require dramatic revolution. It requires a series of small, courageous yeses to yourself. A few choices you can make. Decide to decline one thing this week you would normally accept out of obligation, speak one truth in small measure to someone who needs to hear it, or take a tiny financial step that values your work, like invoicing a client on time or raising your price by a modest percentage. Each small act of alignment strengthens your energetic spine. Now, practical activation for tonight. Simple, safe, and designed to be useful whether or not you believe in the lunar language. These are experiments. Try them, notice what changes, and adjust. First action, journal to identify one misassigned debt and one internal debt. On a page, draw 2 columns. In the first column, write, "The debt I do not own." List the stories, expectations, and obligations that were given to you by family, culture, or other people. Things you took on because you needed belonging or safety. In the second column, write, "The debt I can settle." Name one habit or compromise that only you can reconcile. A promise to yourself you haven't kept, a truth you never spoke, a boundary you never set. Keep this list short. 3 items at most in each column. The power is not in exhaustiveness, it's in clarity. Second action, choose one small boundary to practice in the next 48 hours. This could be as simple as texting, "I'll get back to you tomorrow," instead of saying yes instantly, declining one social invitation that would overextend you, or setting a quiet hour in your evening where you don't check messages. The goal is not to build walls, it is to test your ability to protect one small slice of your energy. The moon amplifies the effect of such choices. Notice how people respond when you begin to guard small edges. Often, the world adjusts easily when you show you've changed the terms. Third action, speak one acceptance or affirmation tonight aloud. Use a short, present tense statement that feels true and breathable. For example, "I accept what supports my growth, and I let go of what no longer fits." Or, "I reclaim my time, my voice, and my peace." Say this out loud before bed, or write it on a note and keep it near your pillow. Speaking, it shifts the internal ledger from idea to commitment. Fourth action, a symbolic yet practical step. Let one shadow contract lapse via behavior. If you habitually apologize when someone interrupts you, tonight choose to listen, then respond without an apology. If you habitually offer help you cannot afford, respond this time with a small, sustainable alternative or a firm no. This is not about proving strength to others. It's about proving possibility to yourself, showing that you can do something different and survive it. Fifth action, grounding self-care. Hydrate, rest, and give yourself permission to slow. Energetic reclamation is not only about action, it's about replenishment. Close your night with a simple routine. Hydrate, dim lights, write one sentence of gratitude, then read the affirmation you chose. These small containers hold and integrate the energetic shifts. If you want a guided visualization to accompany those steps, picture this. Imagine a long hallway with a ledger table at its center. On one side of the table lie envelopes labeled with names and expectations that are not yours. You watch each envelope briefly, recognizing the authority that placed it there. You then close each envelope with a gentle "not mine" and place it in a box you set aside for return. On the other side of the table are smaller notes written in your own hand, promises you made to yourself that you didn't keep. You open one, you read it aloud, you re-sign it with a new footnote. "I choose differently." As you sign, feel something shift in your chest, like a cord unclipping. Visualize energy returning from the unhelpful edges into your center, pooling into a small reservoir that you can access tomorrow. This is not magical coercion, it is a metaphorical rehearsal that primes you for practical choices. As you move through these activations, hold one key truth: receiving is permitted when it follows integrity. You do not need to feel guilty about an opportunity that arrives because you have done the inner work to be ready. Guilt is often a leftover from old ledgers that taught you unworthiness as a method of control. Tonight, give yourself permission to reframe guilt as information. Notice it, ask where it came from, and choose whether it still serves you. There will be resistance. Expect it. It may sound like a voice telling you nothing will change, or that it's safer to keep the peace by staying small. Resistances come dressed in reason and habit. When you notice them, pause and ask, who benefits if I stay the way I am? Often the answer points to systems, relationships, or parts of you that prefer familiarity. That's okay. Acknowledge the fear, thank the part that tried to protect you, and then proceed with a tiny, brave step anyway. Courage does not remove fear. It moves in spite of it. Let me share a few short micro-stories to make these ideas concrete. Marcus had been living in almost for years, almost getting the promotion, almost asking someone to marry him, almost moving cities. The new moon arrived while he was homesick. Instead of using the day to distract himself, he wrote a one-paragraph truth to his manager. I am ready for more responsibility and would like to discuss concrete next steps. The manager responded later with a meeting. It did not guarantee a promotion that day, but it shifted the pattern. Marcus moved from almost to actual conversation. That initiation mattered more than the immediate outcome. Sophie had always taken on the role of emotional caretaker in her family. She discovered, under a moon like tonight, that she was exhausted from unpaid emotional labor. She practiced one small boundary. At a family group chat, she declined to play mediator and instead suggested resources or contact times. That small act taught her that relationships could adapt when terms changed. There is a difference between radical abandonment and measured reclamation. The moon is inviting the latter. Don't feel pressured to burn bridges that serve no constructive purpose. Instead, rework the terms that keep you depleted. As the nights after the moon pass, watch for signs that your energetic realignment is working. They are rarely dramatic. Expect calls, messages, or small shifts, someone asking you for your availability instead of assuming it. An opportunity to be paid for work you used to trade. A creative idea that lands in your mind with a clarity you hadn't felt in months. These are not guarantees, but likely consequences when you stop leaking energy and begin to act with consistent integrity. A word on guilt and abundance. If abundance makes you anxious, it's usually because of an old contract that equates taking with stealing or worth with scarcity. Reframe abundance as the natural equilibrium that arises when each person gets to be themselves fully. Receiving does not deprive another, it simply balances the field. Test it in small ways. Accept a compliment without minimizing it. Take payment when offered. Notice whether the world collapses. Spoiler, it rarely does. There are also practical cautions embedded in tonight's opportunity. Do not make irreversible choices based on a single night's emotional surge. The moon can catalyze clarity, but big moves, resigning jobs, exiting relationships, making legal or medical decisions, deserve counsel and time. Use the moon to point the way and then take steady steps informed by wisdom and professional advice when necessary. If you're wondering how to know the difference between a genuine inner calling and a reactive escape, consider steadiness. A true realignment tends to grow roots. It persists beyond the intensity of the moment and is accompanied by a sense of peace, even if the path is difficult. Reactive escapes feel frantic, hurried, and oriented toward immediate relief. Test your impulses against this criterion before making irreversible choices. As we approach the end of this message, I want to give you one clear, spoken seed to use tonight. Say this aloud. I choose alignment over almost. I reclaim my energy and accept what supports my growth. Make it simple, repeatable, and not loaded with grand promises. This line is a commitment anchor, a way to ring the bell on the ledger and mark the page as changed. Remember, the new moon is offering two distinct movements, clearing what was never yours and calling you to settle what only you can settle. When both are honored, you step into a life that is less borrowed and more honestly your own. The universe often rewards sustained integrity with momentum that becomes visible as time goes on. Quiet, steady actions compound. Before I close, here are a few examples of micro steps you can take in specific areas, each small and safe. Work. Send one concise email stating your availability or interest in a project. Avoid long explanations. Clarity is your ally. Money, invoice or follow up on one outstanding payment. Asking for what you are owed is an act of alignment. Relationships. Offer one honest but gentle boundary, like a preferred meeting time or a limit on topical conversations. Creativity. Spend 20 focused minutes on a single creative idea you've been postponing. Small, dedicated time beats sporadic inspiration. Self-care. Reserve one evening block with no obligations, no screens, only restorative activity. Do not underestimate the power of repeatable tiny acts. They change the ledger. Tonight, as the moon rises, remember to treat this energy as invitation rather than ultimatum. This is an elegant chance to notice what falls away when you stop reinforcing it, and to begin repairing the places where you compromised yourself. Be compassionate with the parts of you that clung to old contracts. They were often protecting you in a different climate. Now, the climate is different. You can create a new default. I'll end with a brief reminder of what to look for afterward. Small openings, quieter sleep, clearer decisions, people respecting new boundaries, and a gradual return of your scattered energy into your central life. Most changes will be incremental. Celebrate them as milestones. If tonight's message moved you, here is one simple request. Comment below one thing you noticed during the activation or the one shadow contract you intend to let go of. Share one small step you will take in the next 48 hours. Like and subscribe if you want more guidance on navigating celestial timing and energetic alignment. I'll be here to translate those moments into practical, compassionate steps. Thank you for meeting this turning point with honesty. Choose alignment over almost. Allow the night to be the pivot it wants to be, and let life begin to meet you halfway.